Hi, everyone. I am Gilbert. I am one of the consultants here at College Matters, doing another student-to-student video. And today we are joined by Anish, and Anish is a second-year student, and he is here to talk about BSMD. So, Anish, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Gilbert, for having me.
You know, we're here to talk about BSMD particularly, and I'm curious if you could just start off with talking about what BSMD is.
Yeah, so BSMD is basically a joint program where the school that you get accepted in, they would do it could be a 3 or 4 year program, depends on the specific program, but you spend a certain amount of time in your undergrad, and then you're automatically matriculated into the School of Medicine at their respective school.
Okay, good. And are there any sort of is it a guarantee into that medical school, or are there certain criteria that you have to fill along the way?
Yeah, that's another important thing when you do your own research. It's different for each and every program. I know the program I'm in, you still have to take the MCAT and still have to score above a certain threshold, and you still have to meet a certain GPA requirement in order to actually matriculate. But usually those requirements are easily met with, just be a diligent student, keep hard at work. Some schools I know, they waive the MCAT requirement completely. You're automatically in. Some schools have a 100-hour volunteering requirement. It just depends on the program.
Okay, good. So for the students that are watching this, right? What kind of student should the student be, or what kind of qualities should they have if they really want to consider BSMD as an option, as opposed to just applying to medical school after undergraduate?
So if there's one word I would use to describe this type of student, it would probably be passionate, just because these students have to really know that they're interested in medicine, and that would have to come across in the essays that the reviewers actually read. And these students would be, they've dedicated themselves to medicine-based extracurriculars, and they really proved to not only themselves, but they can prove to other people that they are truly passionate and they're very interested in medicine. And also, you have to be very academically responsible. For BSMD programs, that's the bare minimum, because if you aren't responsible with your grades, then how are you supposed to be responsible in med school?
Right. And I think that's a great point, right? Is having that genuine passion for medicine, right. Rather than, maybe going to medicine because, a parent pressured you to do it, or you like the prestige of maybe being a doctor, right? Because if you're making that 7-8 year commitment when you're 17, 18 years old, it's a pretty big commitment, right?
Yeah. 100%.
So for you, right, along those same lines, why did you want to go to medical school?
Well, I wanted to learn more about medicine as a whole. I'm very interested in the human body, and it's always the research around it is always changing. I mean, just the other day, I think I read a paper saying that we recently almost discovered a cure for cancer. It's very exciting. And also in medical school, you'll be able to interact with patients and doctors. So you'll get both sides of it as well. And also you can become a leader, and you have the power to change things in our healthcare system that you don't like. So yeah, you become like a patient advocate, and I think that's really important.
Awesome. Yeah. So when you were in high school, right? Taking you back to 2 years ago. So what were you involved in outside of the classroom in high school? And how did those activities sort of help shape you, not only as an applicant, but really as a person as well?
I'd say the biggest activity was my EMT experience. I went through EMT school, and then I volunteered with my local EMS service, and that really proved to myself that I am interested in medicine.
So just to clarify for students, right? EMT, EMS, that's usually people who work with the ambulance.
Okay. Yeah. When you dial 911 for a medical or a trauma emergency, they're the ones who usually get dispatched to help you. So it's really, it's not only life-threatening, it can be basic help as well, but at least you're interacting with patients, and at least you have some experience with medicine. And that's what really did it for me. I loved the fast-paced environment of medicine and trauma and emergency medicine specifically. And also quick decision-making skills. It really improved on for that for me. Another activity that I'd say that shaped is volunteering. I volunteered with a junior board where I worked with others to sort of like achieve a common goal to raise money for the children of the Yale New Haven Hospital. And that was a very valuable experience as well, because you learn, you have leadership positions and you have to work with a team to, all reach this common goal. And lastly, I'd say I did tennis and I played music in high school. And those just showed, those are kind of, for me, those are just hobbies on the side. But it also shows that, you're not only a dedicated student, but you can also pursue other activities, that you're more well-rounded.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So, showing that you're well-rounded, showing that you can commit to service to others, showing that you have experience working with patients, and some experience being in the medical field. I think those are all great boxes to check off, for sure. So, can you talk about how competitive it is to get into a BSMD program and what students should expect when they're applying?
Okay. So yeah, it's very competitive, as you might know. So the way I like to talk about it is a lot of times when you apply to a school is you take your rock, you aim, and then you throw, and you hope you hit that target. You probably will if you work hard on each specific thing. But when it comes to these very competitive programs, you kind of have to take a pile of rocks in your hand and throw it and hope you hit one. It's very competitive, and it gets to the point where luck is a determining factor too. So my advice is to apply to a lot of schools, because you can get into a BSMD program, but not get into specific schools that might have higher acceptance rates. So it's all just random. And the trick is to not take that very seriously, not take that personally. Of course, you should work hard on each one and write as much as you could and prove to the reviewers that you were a great fit for this. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's very difficult to get into.
Right.
The program.
Go ahead.
I was just going to talk about the program about I'm specifically in. Just the way it worked is once you applied, they forwarded your application to the School of Medicine, and they reviewed that application. And then if they liked it, they invited you for an interview. And then after that, after the interview, they'd let you know if you got in or not.
Yeah. I'll just add in there, you wrote a lot of essays, I'm assuming, during the application process. So, 2 to 3 essays probably per school. And you got into one BSMD program, which obviously you earned your admission, but you were also lucky to get into just that one, right?
Right.
And I think students really need to recognize that, you really are lucky if you get into one. And
yeah, one is all it takes at the end of the day. Doesn't matter where you go to med school, at the end of the day, you're still a doctor. So.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And also too, right, you applied to other schools just like normal undergrad.
Right.
Even some of those schools you got denied from, and you were able to get into this BSMD program. So you talked about the pile of rocks, right?
Yeah.
Throw them in there and hope one lands.
Exactly.
But thankfully for you, you ended up in a place that you're pretty happy at. So now that you're in the BSMD program, you're 2 years into your undergraduate experience. Talk about what the program has been like so far.
It's been really fun. BSMD, once you're in BSMD, you get to meet all the other BSMD members, and it's a very tight-knit community. These are people you're going to be working with for the next, for me, it's the next 6 years. So probably even more, honestly. So they will probably be your friends for life. And it's a very cool environment because you're always working with them and you always have people to rely on, whether it's help coursework related or just a friend to lean on. Of course, it's a rigorous course load. It also depends on what major you are. I'm a biomedical engineering major, so it's a little bit more intensive because in addition to all the biology courses, I have to take engineering courses. But I know a lot of people are fine with biology. So.
Yeah. And then just any sort of last advice for students who are considering applying to BSMD.
So that's the thing I'll leave you with is whether you get accepted or not, BSMD isn't the end of the world. There are people who are in BSMD who decide medicine is not for them. And If it's not for them, that's fine. Again, that depends on the program. Some programs might be binding, some aren't. My program luckily isn't binding. So if I decide at any point, oh, I like English instead, I can switch without any penalties or anything like that. Also, people can apply out. I'm not fully committed to the school that I go to. If I decide to, I can apply to other schools. Again, it depends on the program. But
You mean other medical schools, right?
yeah, other medical schools. Yeah. So usually it's up to you. I know some medical schools are pretty restrictive on that, but again, that just depends on the program you're in. And last but not least, just focus on making the most out of your high school experience and try to follow your passions instead of chasing acceptances. And trust me, these AdCom reviewers will know whether you're doing it for med school or not. So try to just learn about yourself in high school, so you actually have something deep and personal to talk about in your essays.
Wow, couldn't have ended it better myself. So that was very well said. Anish, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to all the people watching here, and we do really appreciate your time.
Good luck to everyone there.